Greetings. This is Brother Eli. Welcome to Bible Truth Revealed. This channel is dedicated to exposing the lies of Christianity and revealing biblical truth. On this channel, we worship and serve the Most High God of Israel only. This teaching is entitled The Trap of the So-Called Jews. That is, the trap of the so-called Jews. When our people wake up to the truth of our identity as the children of Israel, they naturally start looking for like-minded people to fellowship with. And many of them fall into the trap of the so-called Jews. They incorrectly assume that because there is a group of people claiming to be Jews, we must be the same people, even though they look nothing like us. They also wrongly assume that the so-called Jews can teach us how to serve the Most High and keep His commandments. This is a terrible mistake that leads many unsuspecting Israelites away from the Most High and to their own destruction. In this teaching, I will bring clarity to this unnecessarily complicated issue by answering the following questions. 1. What is a Jew according to the Holy Scriptures? 2. What is a Jew according to the modern definition? 3. What is the trap of the so-called Jews? 4. What is the true identity of the so-called Jews? 5. Why do the so-called Jews hate the true Jews? 6. What must the true Jews do when we learn the truth about the so-called Jews? Question 1. What is a Jew according to the Holy Scriptures? After the reign of King Solomon, the nation of Israel was split into two kingdoms, the house of Israel in the north and the house of David in the south. The house of David consisted of the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. The house of David was also called the house of Judah because King David was from the tribe of Judah. Furthermore, the word Jew is short for Judah. Therefore, the Israelites from the house of Judah were referred to as Jews. You can learn about the two kingdoms in 3 Kings chapter 12 in the Septuagint, which is 1 Kings chapter 12 in the KJV. So in short, a Jew, according to the Holy Scriptures, is an Israelite from the house of Judah. To be perfectly clear, if you are not from the house of Judah, which is the southern kingdom of Israel, you are not a Jew according to the Holy Scriptures. Question 2. What is a Jew according to the modern definition? In the Encyclopedia Britannica, under the heading Jew, it says this: in the modern world, a definition of Jew that will be satisfactory to all is virtually impossible to construct, for it involves ethnic and religious issues that are both complex and controversial. So again, in the modern world, a definition of Jew that would be satisfactory to all is virtually impossible to construct. Notice that in the Holy Scriptures, which Christians call the Old Testament, there's nothing complex or controversial about defining the word Jew. According to the Holy Scriptures, a Jew is simply an Israelite from the house of Judah, which is the southern kingdom of Israel. But nowadays, people from every nation and all walks of life claim to be Jews. No one cares about the biblical definition of the word, so it has lost all significance. This was done intentionally by the children of Lucifer, also known as the so-called white man, to try to slow down the awakening of the true Jews. In short, according to the modern definition, anybody can claim to be a Jew, and there is nothing we can do about it. This means that when we see the word Jew in the Holy Scriptures, it would be unwise to think that it is referring to the people who call themselves Jews today. Question number 3. What is the trap of the so-called Jews? To understand the trap of the so-called Jews, who are the people who falsely claim to be Jews, we must first define the terms. The so-called Jews are the children of Lucifer, or so-called white people who falsely claim to be Jews. They are an entirely different group of people from the true Jews of the Holy Scriptures, and they have absolutely nothing to do with the children of Israel. The Israelites have always been, still are, and will always be a melanated people. Therefore, people who do not look like us are not us. It really is that simple. For a thorough understanding of who the Israelites are today, please listen to my teaching entitled, The Identity of the Israelites Revealed. That is, the identity of the Israelites revealed. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines the word trap as something by which one is caught unawares. Again, something by which one is caught unawares. When all people are caught in the trap of the so-called Jews, they are unaware that they are being deceived. The trap of the so-called Jews is to convince the true Jews that we need to turn to them to understand the Holy Scriptures. For example, they have managed to convince many Israelites that we must learn their made-up Hebrew language in order to truly understand the Holy Scriptures. This couldn't be further from the truth. To get a thorough understanding of the fake Hebrew language deception, please listen to my teaching entitled, Lies About the Hebrew Language. That is, lies about the Hebrew language. Once we realize that the so-called Jews are simply some of Lucifer's children, we must reject their false religion and stop looking to them for anything at all. I'm going to read Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10. Ecclesiasticus chapter 12 is Sirach in the Apocrypha, and I'm reading verse 10 from the Brenton Septuagint translation. It reads thus: Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. We must never trust the so-called Jews because they are our enemies. If someone steals your identity and your heritage and proceeds to treat you like a second-class citizen, that person is your enemy. Only fools trust their enemies. So stop following the so-called Jews before you get destroyed. Question number 4. What is the true identity of the so-called Jews? To discover the true identity of the so-called Jews, we must first understand the significance of the true Jews and the rest of the children of Israel. The Most High separated us from the other nations to be His special people. We can read about this in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26 says, "And ye shall be holy," that means set apart, "to me, because I, the Most High, am holy, who separated you from all nations to be mine." The Most High separated us from the other nations to be His. Therefore, when we wake up to the truth of who we are, the last thing we should be doing is joining ourselves to the nations that He separated us from. When the children of Israel wake up to the knowledge of the truth, we have a duty to return to the Most High only and keep His commandments. We must never cleave to the other nations, such as the so-called Jews. Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 to 6. Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 to 6 read thus: "And now, if ye will indeed hear my voice and keep my covenant, ye shall be to me a peculiar people, above all nations, for the whole earth is mine." The Israelites are a peculiar or special people above all nations on the earth. Verse 6, "And ye shall be to me a royal priesthood and a holy," that means set apart, separate, "nation. These words shalt thou speak to the children of Israel." These words were never spoken to the so-called Jews. We, the children of Israel, are a nation of kings and priests. And this is why the so-called Jews desperately desire to steal our identity. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6 says, "For thou art a holy people to the Most High, and the Most High chose thee to be to Him a peculiar people beyond all nations that are upon the face of the earth." How many times do we need to hear that we are a set apart people, a holy people, a peculiar people, a special people above all the nations on the face of the earth? The Most High chose us to be His holy people. He never chose the so-called Jews, which is those who falsely claim to be Jews. And this is why we, His holy people, must not look to the so-called Jews, the fake Jews, for knowledge about the Most High or a better understanding of the Holy Scriptures. Now, for the true identity of the so-called Jews. The so-called Jews are a chosen people from among the children of Lucifer. Allow me to explain. Just like the Most High has a chosen people, Lucifer also has a chosen people. He copies the works of the Most High because he desperately wants to be like the Most High. We can read about this in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 to 14. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 to 14 says this: How has Lucifer, that rose in the morning, fallen from heaven? He that sent orders to all the nations is crushed to the earth. But thou saidst in thine heart, I will go up to heaven. I will set my throne above the stars of heaven. I will sit on a lofty mount, on the lofty mountains toward the north. I will go up above the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Lucifer desperately wants to be like the Most High. And the so-called Jews desperately want to be like the true Jews. The Most High chose one nation of people to be his special people from among the melanated peoples of the earth. And Lucifer chose one nation of people to be his special people from among his own non-melanated children. To reiterate, the so-called Jews are the chosen people of Lucifer. This is why he blesses them with great wealth and power so they can help him to rule the world. Whether it is in banking, media, music, sports, or even the adult entertainment industry, Lucifer's children are the ones that are ultimately in charge of the world as we know it. But don't take my word for it. Research it for yourself and prepare for your mind to be blown. We are fortunate enough to live at a time when there is an abundance of information at our fingertips. This means that there is no good reason to remain ignorant about something this significant. If you prefer to stick your head in the sand and continue to be deceived by the so-called Jews, that is your choice. The rest of us will continue to do our own research as commanded in the Holy Scriptures. Ecclesiasticus chapter 11, verse 7. Ecclesiasticus is Sirach in the Apocrypha, and I'm reading chapter 11, verse 7. It says, Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first, and then rebuke. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first, and then rebuke. This means that before you accuse someone of anti-Semitism, you should take the time to examine the truth for yourself. Upon doing so, you will learn the true identity of the so-called Jews. You will also discover that all their schemes and plans are designed to distract, control, degrade, and destroy the children of Israel. Question number 5. Why do the so-called Jews hate the true Jews? Lucifer hates the Most High and his people. Therefore, his children also hate the Most High and his people. We can read about this in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 20. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 20 says, "As a garment defiled with blood shall not be pure, so neither shalt thou be pure, because thou hast destroyed my land and hast slain my people. Thou shalt not endure forever, thou an evil seed." The so-called Jews go to great length to slay the true Jews and the rest of the children of Israel and to destroy our land. This is the only way they could steal our identity and our heritage. Just like Lucifer, their father, they are an evil seed. As they are not the people of the book, they struggle to understand the Holy Scriptures. Therefore, for a very long time, they engaged in lengthy debates and discussions to try to figure out what the Holy Scriptures really mean. This embarrassing fact is recorded in the collection of books they call the Talmud. Let's learn about the Talmud.
This is the Talmud, with 2 million words, 523 chapters, and 60 volumes. It's Judaism's monumental guide to life and study. This enormous work, compiled over centuries, records the evolving debates among the Jewish sages as they interpret the Torah and clarify its laws.
There is no need to clarify the laws of the Most High. They are simple and easy to follow. Yet the so-called Jews had to debate about how to interpret the Torah and clarify its laws because they lack the understanding of the Holy Scriptures. This is even more reason to completely reject their false religion. We can read about the ease and simplicity of keeping the commandments in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 11 to 14. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 11 to 14 reads thus: "For this command which I give thee this day is not grievous." That means it's not difficult. It's not difficult to understand, and it's not difficult to keep. Therefore, the commandments of the Most High do not require clarifying. They are not grievous, neither is it far from thee. It is not in heaven above, as if there were one saying, "Who shall go up for us into heaven, and shall take it for us, and we will hear and do it." Neither is it beyond the sea, saying, "Who will go over for us to the other side of the sea, and take it for us, and make it audible to us, and we will do it." We did not need Jewish sages to debate and discuss the Torah in order to try to clarify its laws. They are simple and easy to understand. Verse 14. The Word, this is the Torah, the Holy Scriptures, the commandments of the Most High God, the Word is very near thee, in thy mouth and in thine heart and in thine hands, to do it. The Talmud is completely unnecessary for the true Jews. Yet, for most of the so-called Jews, it is one of the most important collection of books ever written. As Lucifer turns everything upside down, the so-called Jews teach that the day begins when the sun goes down, even though the Holy Scriptures reveal that the day ends at that time. This is one example of the nonsense that's written and taught in the Jewish Talmud. For details of the fact that the day begins at first light and not when the sun goes down, please listen to my teaching entitled, When Does the Day Begin? According to the Holy Scriptures. That is, when does the day begin? According to the Holy Scriptures. Now let's consider a few testimonies from so-called black Jews who have faced a great deal of racism while desperately trying to feel accepted by the so-called Jews. Exhibit 1.
There's this sort of perception that race isn't a Jewish problem because Judaism doesn't concern itself with race. There's also the greater narrative saying that Jews aren't white, yet they don't seem to realize the double standard when somebody like myself walks into a room and it's like, how are you Jewish? Because I don't look white. It's weird sort of circular logic which prevents real substantive conversations of race from happening.
For those who are unaware, anti-black racism is a serious problem in Jewish communities. We must stay away from where we are not welcome. Even if they give us their fake smiles, they hate our guts. And it doesn't take long to discover this for ourselves. Let's consider Exhibit 2.
I was just walking down a block with my family. And, your typical Chabad guy, white beard, stopped in his tracks just staring, slack-jawed, open-mouthed while we crossed the street. And I turned around and waved to him and said, Shabbat Shalom. If you can stare, you can say hello. So he figured out how his mouth worked. He kept on with his day. But that was yesterday. That was like this past week.
This is a kind of nonsense that Israelites have to put up with in Jewish communities. We need to have enough self-respect to stop clinging to the so-called Jews. The Most High never commanded us to join Jewish communities or to subscribe to the Jewish religion. But our people are so destroyed and confused that they keep trying to feel accepted by our enemies. Exhibit 3.
My name is Tova. I wear a Jewish star around my neck. I go to synagogue. My mother is even Jewish. What more can I possibly do to be seen and to be counted and to matter to these people? Why is it okay that we do not consider Jews of color and everything we dream of and plan and implement as an organized Jewish people? I'll go ahead and say it. I think racism is in the way. A white Jewish colleague was passing by my office door one day when I was watching some video footage of a bar mitzvah in which everyone happened to be black. She stopped in my doorway and almost fell over. And then she said, "Oh my God, what is that? What are you looking at? What are they doing?" I was at a Jewish leadership program when a college freshman named Rebecca shared with me how she had challenged an Asian's Jewishness because her 13 years of Jewish day school experience led her to believe all Jews are white.
As we can see, because of anti-black racism in Jewish communities, there is nothing that so-called black Jews can do to be accepted by Lucifer's chosen people. I also hope you notice that when it's convenient, the so-called Jews claim that they are not white. But when it suits them, they teach that all Jews are white.
There's also the greater narrative saying that Jews aren't white, yet they don't seem to realize the double standard when somebody like myself walks into a room and it's like, how are you Jewish? Because I don't look white.
I was at a Jewish leadership program when a college freshman named Rebecca shared with me how she had challenged an Asian's Jewishness because her 13 years of Jewish day school experience led her to believe all Jews are white.
This type of hypocrisy is a trademark of the children of Lucifer. And for those who think that Jewish schools are a safe place for our children, take a look at Exhibit 4.
California only has 100 Ethiopian Jews, including Samu and his family. Arriving at the age of 3, Esther, now 40, tells us about her school career in Beverly Hills.
I went to a Jewish private school from about 5 years old until I was about 14, right before high school. It was interesting. I was the only black girl there. Everybody else was white around me. I remember that there was a rabbi in our school. Actually, he was a substitute teacher, and he came for the day. And I remember coming back from recess, and he stopped me in front of everybody, and he said, "Stop! What are you doing here?" And being an 8-year-old or 7-year-old, I think during that time, what would somebody answer? Of course, I go to school here. And he said, "Well, you're not supposed to be here." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because you're black."
There is no good reason for a little black girl to be plunged into an environment of white supremacy. Nevertheless, many so-called black people are blissfully unaware that we are hated by the children of Lucifer. Therefore, they send their innocent little children to the schools of the oppressor. What a terrible idea to fall into the trap of the so-called Jews. As hurtful as the rabbi's statement was to the poor little girl, he was simply expressing the racist ideas that are contained in rabbinical literature. Let's explore some examples of this. On www.thetorah.com, there is an article entitled "Black People in Jewish Tradition. Eliminating Racism Requires Honesty." This article was written by Professor Melek Viswanath, a Jewish scholar who teaches finance at Pace University, New York. And it quotes from a Jewish commentary on Genesis chapter 12, verse 13, which explained what supposedly happened when Abraham and Sarah were on their travels. The quote says this: "Azariah, in the name of Judah, Rabbi Simon, Abram said to her, 'We have traveled through Aram Naharaim and Aram Nahor, and although we have seen beautiful women, we haven't found a woman as beautiful as you. Now that we are going to a place of people who are ugly and black," again, people who are ugly and black, "say that you are my sister, so that they will be kind to me on your account." End of quote. Abraham and Sarah lived at a time when they were only people of color. The children of Lucifer, also known as the so-called white man, had not yet invaded the earth. This means that Abraham and Sarah were so-called black people. Furthermore, the Holy Scriptures makes no such racist statement. This nonsensical commentary came from the white supremacist mind of Lucifer's chosen people. Quote number 2 in Black People in Jewish Tradition says this: Another text which implies that blackness is less attractive than whiteness. Again, blackness is less attractive than whiteness appears in Tanit 1:6, which claims that Noah's son Ham was punished for sinning on the ark by being turned black. Ham, dog, and raven behaved badly. They had sex with their partners on the ark, while all others, human and animal, were celibate. Ham left the ark darkened. The dog left as a public spectacle in his intercourse, and the raven left as different from all other creatures. According to this Jewish text, Noah's son Ham was darkened as punishment for behaving badly while on the ark. He behaved no better than the dog or the raven. As such, all three were punished. The white supremacist who wrote this Jewish commentary believed that Ham was turned into a black man because he behaved like a dog. Let that sink in for a moment. In the New World Encyclopedia, under the heading Curse of Ham and subheading Early Jewish Interpretations, it says this: the Babylonian Talmud, that's the same book that is so loved by these so-called Jews, the Babylonian Talmud, Sanhedrin 108b, states, our rabbis taught 3 copulated in the ark, and they were all punished: the dog, the raven, and Ham. This is what we just read a minute ago. The dog was doomed to be tied, the raven expectorates, and Ham was smitten in his skin. The nature of Ham's smitten skin is unexplained, but later commentaries describe this as a darkening of skin. A later note to the text states that the smitten skin referred to the blackness of descendants. This is anti-black racism in Judaism. It continues, and a later comment by rabbis in the Bereshit Rabbah asserts that Ham himself emerged from the ark black-skinned. Again, Ham himself emerged from the ark black-skinned. The Zohar states that Ham's son Canaan darkened the faces of mankind. As we can clearly see, racist Jewish texts such as the Talmud encourage the so-called Jews to look down on so-called black people. And this is why so-called black people will never be seen as equals in Jewish communities. Here is yet another example of anti-black racism in the Jewish community.
Eleni, an African-American Jew of Ethiopian descent, has also experienced racism in the Jewish community.
People should really take the time to get to know, especially in the Jewish community, get to know their neighbors and get to know the people that comprise the Jewish people, and not perceive that it's only Ashkenaz Jews that are out there, only Sephardic Jews that are out there. And I think it's really tiring to explain over and over again who you are and what you're doing in shul.
If you are an Israelite, like this lovely young lady, I urge you to reject the white supremacist religion of Judaism, return to the Most High only, and keep His commandments. The Most High is not pleased when we seek acceptance from the heathen, such as the so-called Jews, instead of seeking Him with all our heart. The so-called Jews do not have the keys to the kingdom, and they do not understand the Holy Scriptures. The children of Israel must stop looking up to the children of Lucifer. The Most High did not send His word to the children of Lucifer. He only sent it to us, the true descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We can read about this in Psalm chapter 147, verses 8 to 9. Psalm 147, verses 8 to 9 in the Septuagint are in verses 19 to 20 in the KJV. It reads thus: He sends His word to Jacob, His ordinances and judgments to Israel, that's us. He has not done so to any other nation. This includes the so-called Jews. He did not give His word to them, and He has not shown them His judgments. To learn how to return to the Most High only, please listen to my teaching entitled, What Does the Most High Require of You? That is, what does the Most High require of you? Let's read one last quote from the article, Black People in Jewish Tradition. Eliminating racism requires honesty. It says this: numerous pejorative statements about non-Jews can be found in Jewish texts, and most of these are general in nature. What this means is that Jewish people generally hate non-Jews. So if you're not a Jewish person or so-called Jew, you can take it for granted that the Jewish people or so-called Jews hate your guts, because this is what they have been told to do in their Jewish text. It continues. The text surveyed above, however, is referring to the quotes that we read earlier from the Talmud and other rabbinical literature, and others like them single out a specific group for opprobrium by virtue of their skin color. Let's define some of these terms so we can better understand this quote. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, synonyms of pejorative are belittling, contemptuous, degrading, demeaning, disdainful, disparaging, scornful, and uncomplimentary. And the definition of opprobrium is very strong disapproval. So not just disapproval, not just strong disapproval, but very strong disapproval. So the quote is saying that numerous, belittling, contemptuous, degrading, demeaning, disdainful, disparaging, scornful, and uncomplimentary statements about non-Jews can be found in Jewish texts. And most of these are general in nature. That means they hate everybody that's not them. The text surveyed above, however, and others like them, single out a specific group for very strong disapproval by virtue of their skin color. The skin color that is hated by these white supremacists who falsely claim to be Jews, a so-called black skin. The Most High only made melanated people, and he said that we are good. Lucifer is the enemy of the Most High. Therefore, he opposes everything that is good. And this is why the children of Lucifer hate so-called black people. They love what their father loves, and they hate what their father hates. To learn more about this fact, please listen to my teaching entitled The Truth About Colorism. That is, the truth about colorism. Now pay close attention to the next clip, which reveals another dirty secret about the so-called Jews that they do not want the rest of the world to know.
I want you to go to Google and type Jewish Encyclopedia Agriculture. Now click on the first entry. This is the official JewishEncyclopedia.com, the unedited full text of the 1906 Jewish Encyclopedia. On this page, I want you to find the subcategory panel and click on In America. Here you will find a small but extremely significant paragraph that reads, with Jewish reference books redacted, In America. On the virgin soil of America, the Jews were among the pioneers of agriculture. While Louis de Torres introduced tobacco into use for civilized mankind, Jews transplanted the sugarcane from Madeira to Brazil in 1548 or in 1531. During the 17th century, the sugar industry was monopolized by the Jews, and with their expulsion from Brazil, it was transplanted to the West Indies, where, in 1663, David de Mercato's invention of new sugar mills benefited the sugar trade in Barbados. The Jews in Georgia, chief among them Abraham de Leon, transplanted vine and silk culture from Portugal to America. But while de Leon cherished great expectations in that direction, the Jews of Georgia in general found the production of indigo, rice, corn, tobacco, and cotton more profitable. In fact, the cotton plantations in many parts of the South were wholly in the hands of the Jews, and as a consequence, slavery found its advocates among them. The key words we should focus on are monopolized, meaning of an organization or group obtain exclusive possession or control of a trade, commodity, or service. Have or take the greatest share of, or get or keep exclusively to one's self. The word many, meaning a large number of, or a large number of people or things, or the majority of people. And the word wholly, meaning entirely or fully. It should be pointed out that each one of these commodities had their own plantations and Negro slaves that worked on them. If there is any doubt, this panel here has the actual page scans from the printed Jewish Encyclopedia. As it states verbatim, during the 17th century, the sugar industry was monopolized by the Jews. In fact, the cotton plantations in many parts of the South were wholly in the hands of the Jews, and as a consequence, slavery found its advocates among them.
As we can see, this damaging information is in the Jewish Encyclopedia, where everyone can see it. But most people are so afraid of being called anti-Semitic that they wouldn't even bother to research these things for themselves. Everything we wish to know about Lucifer's chosen people is at our fingertips. Just pull up Google and start searching for the truth about the so-called Jews. And when you are done, research the information in this next clip as well.
The Holocaust is big business because Germany so far has given the Jews, I think, at least $200 billion. So it's big business. And some of you are still getting $1,000 a month. And a lot of people don't know this. And then people don't realize who brought the slaves to America. They were Jewish ships.
Who were the owners of these slave ships? Who were the biggest slavers in the 16th century? The Ashkenazi were the biggest slavers in the 16th and 17th century. There's a ton of sources out there, but I'll stick with the Jewish ones because that's just safer. Jewish merchants routinely possessed enormous numbers of slaves temporarily before selling them off. If a slave auction fell on a Jewish festival, it was postponed due to lack of buyers and sellers. Rabbi Herbert Bloom adds that the slave trade was one of the most important Jewish activities.
The cotton plantations in many parts of the South were wholly in the hands of the Jews, and as a consequence, slavery found its advocates among them.
The most egregious, cruel, and murderous aspect of this period was the transatlantic slave trade, often called the Middle Passage. Scholarly studies of the loss of life during the transportation of slaves to the Americas suggest that between 7 and 10 million Africans suffered indescribable cruelty and perished in the Middle Passage. Human suffering and death from the African slave trade is the cornerstone of white guilt both in America and around the world, and has been tirelessly promoted by both academic and popular media. There are quite prominent Jewish historians who claim that the African slave trade, and indeed slavery in the West, for the last 2,000 years, was thoroughly dominated by the Jewish community. Here are some words of the major Jewish history of the early Americas called New World Jewry. It's by S.B. Liebman and the American Jewish Historical Society. He wrote about those who owned and manned the ships, the perpetrators of this mass human cruelty and murder. Quote, they came with ships carrying African blacks to be sold as slaves. The traffic in slaves was a royal monopoly, and the Jews were often appointed as agents for the crown in their sale. They, the Jews, were the largest ship chandlers in the entire Caribbean region, where the shipping business was mainly a Jewish enterprise. The ships were not only owned by Jews, but were manned by Jewish crews and sailed under the command of Jewish captains.
This message couldn't be any clearer. But if it went over your head, you would do well to rewind the video and watch it again. Knowledge is power, so empower yourself while you still can. Before this information is removed from the internet, research it for yourself. Now that you know how much the so-called Jews hate the real Jews, you should be able to understand why we are not welcome in the land that they stole. Check this out.
Since 1968, the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem have lived in the state of Israel. Guided by their leader, the late Ben-Ami ben Israel, the group left the United States and, after a brief period in Liberia, settled in Dimona, a city in southern Israel. There, they have lived for more than 50 years, and during that time, the group has battled the state for respect, for recognition, for work visas, and even citizenship. Over time, after intense struggle, the Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, have improved their relationship with the state, and in 2003, the government finally granted them legal citizenship, or some got permanent or temporary residency. Everyone there who was living there got that. Like other Israeli citizens and other American settlers, which they are, the group's children serve in the Israeli military, and the group is now generally celebrated as valuable members of Israeli society rather than the strange vegan cult from Chicago that they were labeled when they first arrived in the 1960s. So the problem is solved, or so they thought. It turns out that not everybody living there was included in the 2003 decision. Instead, some have been living in Israel without any legal status for decades, and although they have applied for residency in order to fix the problem, those requests have now been formally denied. Last week, 46 families received deportation notices from Israel's Population and Immigration Authority. Now, according to the deportation order, all of them must leave the country within 60 days. This includes people who have lived there for decades, and it also includes children who have never lived anywhere else.
This is evidence that Lucifer's chosen people, do not want the Most High's chosen people around them unless we are serving them as their slaves. If you are still in denial after all the evidence provided in this teaching, there is nothing else I can do for you. Only the Most High can help you. Question number 6. What must the true Jews do when we learn the truth about the so-called Jews? We can find the answer to this question in Ecclesiasticus chapter 17, verses 25 to 26. Ecclesiasticus is Sirach in the Apocrypha, and I'm reading chapter 17, verses 25 to 26. It says, Return unto the Most High, and forsake thy sins. Make thy prayer before his face, and offend less. Turn again to the Most High, and turn away from iniquity. For he will lead thee out of darkness into the light of health, and hate thou abomination vehemently. So when we learn the truth about the so-called Jews, and the fact that we are the true Jews, the children of Israel, what we must do is repent. And repent means to return to the Most High only and keep his commandments. And we must hate the abomination of Judaism vehemently. When we return to the Most High only and keep his commandments, he leads us out of the darkness of Luciferian religions of white supremacy, such as Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. In conclusion, the so-called Jews are Lucifer's chosen people. They deceive the true Jews and the rest of the world into learning their fake Hebrew language and trusting them to give us a greater understanding of the Holy Scriptures. However, they have a deep-seated hatred for so-called black people. This is why the children of Israel, including the so-called black Jews, must reject the false religion of Judaism and return to the Most High only. Rather than falling into the trap of the so-called Jews, I urge you to pray to the Most High and ask him to give you the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you seek. As long as you are keeping his commandments to the best of your ability, he will answer your prayer. And with that I say, Salam.